In part 3, we're going to install an Apache Webserver and then start it and enable it to run on startup and then change the home page. Let's see if we can do that. So clear, and I'll say yum install httpd, and it looks like it found it. Y and enter to accept it, and we're installing. Perfect. Let's take a look to see if it's running. Systemctl, which is like service but just newer. This is the new service. Systemctl, I think we can do a status httpd, and it's inactive, so it's not running. So I'll just do an up arrow, systemctl, and do a start httpd. Now I'll do up arrow to status, and you can see now it's running. So systemctl start httpd and systemctl status httpd. Excellent. Now if I want to have this web server run on startup, right, run as a background process or as a process, not as a background process, but as a process, systemctl enable httpd, and now the web server, the Apache web server, will run on startup. Okay, if we want to, we could edit the web page. So let's take a look at that. First of all, let's see if it's where we think it is. So I'm going to say ls, show me what's in root var www. And there's HTML. So that looks like the right spot. So now if I want, I could say nano, let's edit root var www HTML / index dot, and let's see here, what was the index.html was the file name. Perfect. All right, fine. Index.html. So we're going to edit this file, and we'll put in some basic HTML tags here. Very rough, not necessarily to standard. And up here we could say, welcome to my web page, and this is my home page. Okay, perfect. Control X, Y, and enter. So now we have a home page that we can take a look at. Now in my instructions here, I stop the firewalld and I disable it right now. So let's take a look to see if this is going to work. So first of all, yeah, let's try that. So clear. All right. Systemctl stop firewalld, and then I'm going to disable it so it doesn't run on startup, because I'm going to, in this lab I use iptables anyway, so we'll disable firewalld for now. All right, so that stopped. Let's take a look with an if config at our IP address again. Okay, I'm 8.139. So if I want, I could open up a browser here on my host computer and go to 192.168.8.139, and there it is. This is my home page. And the title right here, welcome to my web page. So you can see that it worked, and the server is running, and I can see it from my host computer. So notice I have two IP addresses running. On ENP0S3 I have 192.168.8.139, and on ENP0S8 I have 172.16.1.1. So in this lab, which I do with the students, we now have basically Ethernet 0 set up in bridge mode. It's picking up an address on using DHCP on my home network. And Ethernet 1, which is ENP0S8, has 172.16.1.1, which is on the internal network mode, or LAN segment mode if you're using VMware. So you have two NICs here, one that's going to go out to the internet, and the other one which goes out on a private network, and we'll use another virtual machine to talk to it. And we're setting up CentOS as not only a server, but also as a firewall router. So traffic will go from this virtual LAN through CentOS and then out to the internet as a nice test. We installed CentOS. We set up two network adapters. We installed some tools. And then we installed the Apache Webserver, stopped the firewall, and then we could see the web server. So if you took screenshots now, you'd have 2 points, 2 points, 2 points, you'd have 6 points. So the next part is to install and configure a DHCP server. So let's do that. That sounds like fun. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'll say yum install DHCP. Beautiful. Y and enter to install it. Okay, now that it's installed, I'll use nano to edit root etc. It's located in the DHCP folder, and it's dhcpd.conf. All right, that looks good. Okay, that looks like the right file, because notice up these comments at the top showing me that it's the DHCP server configuration file. So here goes. So what we're going to set up is basically this right here. Subnet is the 172.16.1.0 subnet with net mask of 255.255.255.0, and then an open curly brace. I'm going to close that curly brace down here, and then tab range 172.16.1.100. That'll be our starting address, space 172.16.1.150. So we'll hand out 50 addresses, semicolon, and we're going to have a couple of options. So we'll pass out a domain name servers, and the domain name servers we'll pass out will be 8.8.4.4, and wait, whoops, comma, that's important, 4.4.2.2, semicolon. That sounds good. And then another option, routers 172.16.1.1, semicolon, and option broadcast address 172.16.1.255, semicolon. All right, I can get rid of these empty lines here, and that looks like a good subnet configuration or network pool for our DHCP server. So Control X, Y, and enter to save, and then I'll type clear, and let's restart the service. Service DHCPD restart. And that looks good. Service DHCPD status. Beautiful. So now what I can do is I can go back to my VirtualBox here, and I'm going to take one of my virtual machines here. This is, let's say, Mint that I have here. I'll go to Settings, Network, Internal Network Adapter. I'm going to change the internal network adapter to LAN, and then I'll start up this virtual machine. This is just a Linux Mint virtual machine, and when it's started up, again, we'll test it out and see if it can talk to CentOS and pick up an IP address from the DHCP server. All right, there it is. I'll go down to the right corner here. Wired connection, just to kind of reset the wired connection. I'll open up a command prompt and type ifconfig, and you can see I've picked up an IP address 172.16.1.100. Pretty good. And if I was to open a web browser and put in 172.16.1.1, this is my home page. Welcome to my web page. So there's the CentOS machine. So now we've picked up an IP address from the CentOS router, and so that's pretty good. Now let's see here. We can also, so that looks good. The instructions are solid. The next piece of this lab is to SSH into your server from Windows using PuTTY. So I have Windows here. Let's go into our CentOS machine here, and let's take a look at our SSH server. So service SSHD status. It's active and running. So I don't need to do anything there. Now, notice it says here, if you did not create a user account when you installed CentOS, you could set one up right now, but I already have one. So all I got to do is run PuTTY and see if this works. So start, let's run PuTTY, and SSH 192.168.8.139, which is my ENP0S3 IP address on my CentOS box. I'll click open. It wants me to accept the security keys, the self-signed security keys. I do. I'll log in as Dan and put in the password. And I'm in. There it is. Dan at CentOS. I have a folder at root home Dan. And let's see here. Hostname. CentOS.dan.local. I'm SSH'd into the CentOS server. So this is going pretty smoothly. The instructions are pretty good, and so far so good. So I'd take a screenshot and I'd have 2 more points. Now here's where things get a little more complex, and that is turning the CentOS Linux box virtual machine into the firewall router. So to do that, we're going to work with iptables, and we're going to, this takes a little bit longer because we're going to type in some rules. We're going to make a firewall script, a custom firewall script, and that takes a little bit. So I'll probably have to do that in another video.